So second order of business is warrants. So if we start off with the general warrants.
Is the agenda all right, Bill?
No change.
No changes?
No.
Okay. You're starting out with the warrants. I'll start with the general warrant. The general warrant is 7/27/18 to 08/6/18 in the amount of $484,794.90. And that's 102 invoices. And I went through it, and there was like 11 invoices for Green Mountain Power for $3,000. I skipped over that. I went to Pike. Pike had 5 invoices for $229,867. That accounted for 47% of our total. And St. Albans PD was $207,195 for 43%. The next high one was Amcare for 2%, $11,000. There was, I said 102 invoices. It started at 101. There was on the PD, we had a little error in the distribution of them, and I called this morning, and Carrie took care of it. It was $19,000 for fire department.
Dispatch,
yeah. So
what did it do, get mixed up in the PD payment?
No, actually, you can pass that around. When the invoice comes in from the St. Albans PD, it says dispatch, and then underneath it was a street crimes unit invoice. It didn't say fire department, and it was tagged to the police line instead. So we changed it.
Okay.
The amount doesn't go down. It's just a question.
The amount does not change. That's
doesn't
correct.
change a bit.
So it doesn't change the bottom line then?
Nope.
Okay, so, are there any questions or comments about the general warrant? If not, all those in favor indicate they're saying aye.
Aye.
So those warrants pass.
Okay.
Bruce, you're going to do the
Yeah,
payroll
I've
warrants?
got 2 payroll warrants. The first warrant is dated July 23 through July 29 for $19,034.68. Second warrant is July 16th through July 22nd for $28,920.01.
Any comment or question on those? If not, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so those warrants pass. So minutes. Al, would you do minutes,
Sure.
please?
There's 3 sets, I believe, that need to be.
We got 2 in the mail.
Oh, 2.
There are 3, yeah.
July 23rd and July 20.
Right.
July 11th, 20th, and 23rd.
Jen discovered that you already approved the 11th at
Okay.
a previous meeting.
We did.
So I would move that we accept or approve the minutes of the Select Board meeting on Monday, July 23rd, as written.
I suggest there's one change on the last page under other business. They talk about the grant list growing about $6 million, roughly 6/10ths of something of the grand list. It really should be 0.6% or 6/10ths of 1%, whichever your choice is. Other than that, I have no comment.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 And also move to approve the Select Board special meeting minutes of Friday, July 20th, as written.
Okay. Any comment or questions on that? Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Okay, we'd like to change that one, but that's doing the tax rate. There's not much we can do about that. Okay, now we come to the next item on the agenda. We have Chief Taylor's here with a couple of his officers. We're going to talk about, provide an update, what's going on, and to answer any and all questions within reason.
Within reason, that's the key, right? So I take it by now that you've received the annual fiscal stats statistics that got pushed out. There's about 12% increase in the number of arrests that we made this past year. The highest number is juvenile incidents. There was a 50% increase in the number of juvenile incidents in the past year. We experienced 34 fatal drug overdoses between the town and the city in this past year, and naloxone was administered in 20 of those cases, and only 5 of those people did not survive. The other 15 did survive. But obviously the problem is not better. We continue to try to make a dent in it. I did bring along with me tonight Corporal Trevor Sargent. He heads up our street crimes unit. They've been extremely successful, working very hard. But I thought if anybody had any questions of him, I'd make him available to the select board. I also have Lieutenant Jason Weatherby with me this evening. There were some comments and questions about some motorcycle activity in the town in the past couple of weeks, and I thought if there were specific questions, he could deal with it directly because he dealt with it specifically. And that way we don't lose anything in a third-party interpretation here. I'm pleased to tell you that I believe, I've got my fingers still crossed, that by tomorrow I'll have filled every open position in the police department. We, for a long time, had a number of openings, and I actually overspent my overtime budget making sure that we covered the shifts. And just one other thing I wanted to point out to the select board is for the last handful of years, we have GPS in every cruiser so we can see, and we have the town and the city curtained. So we can see every time a cruiser's in the town and every time a cruiser's in the city. And I can tell you that the results of reviewing that indicate that in the past 6 months, the police department has put 25,532 miles on in the town and 26,010 miles in the city. But if you do the math on that, it comes out to 3,646 and a half miles a month, which is 1,500 miles a week. I brought printouts. What I would tell you is if you are interested in looking at the data, I would invite you to come up and look at it directly, because each month represents about 80 to 100 pages of printed data. And one of these, so that you could see it, this is the towns. I brought it as an example, and this is the cities for the month of July, and there's less than 152 miles difference between the amount of patrolling that was occurring in the city and patrolling that occurred in the town. I did overextend my overtime budget by $62,000, making sure that we had all the shifts covered. We made up for that in salaries, obviously, with open positions. I am prepared to talk about anything that you would like to talk about and answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, out of curiosity, I mean, I'd go blind reading all those numbers. Have you ever been able to try to map it out with GPS?
Well, we took a long look at it, and when I got all done, I was the guy that was blind looking at all those numbers. I don't know how you do it. This system is not quite as good as the original system that we got on, and it doesn't map very well. It just spits out a lot of data.
Okay.
Hey, Chief, I'm glad to hear that you've got your positions filled. Do you know when you'll have the manpower on the streets?
I believe by the middle of September, I'll have 5 on the streets.
Okay, because I got to be very honest with you. You know, I've always been a supporter of you and your company, but when I hear that you're 7 people down, that really concerns me a lot.
You should see how concerned I was,
Yeah,
sir.
and covering it with overtime, I mean, it's about the only thing you can do, because you don't have a magic wand. You can't just have.
Well, we had the
people
2 SROs come out of the school for the summer too, which helped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't have to put somebody back there come fall.
Oh yes, yeah, yeah.
So I did have a few questions for you on that matter, but I'm not going to ask them now.
I will tell you that we changed our recruiting strategy, and because it's become so competitive to find certified, experienced police officers, the city now pays up to $10,000 signing bonus and is providing free health insurance to new officers who are certified, which is much more costly than in the past.
Okay, I've said enough about it.
That's very good, fantastic. No, I know, we've expressed concern, and the concerning was really the filling all the slots. There was no concern raised about the degree of coverage or lack of coverage and all of that. So there's no problem there. Before I forget, I'd like to congratulate Lieutenant Weatherby on his new promotion. It's well earned, I'm sure. Okay, I have no further comment.
Chief, what level will you have for officers? I know we had level 3, just about everyone, so how long before the new ones will obtain that level?
The legislature makes it more difficult every year to get officers certified. So now it takes between 9 and 11 months to get an officer certified. And then they have to attend the 19-week police academy. They have to attend the part-time academy. They have to be assigned to a field training officer. So realistically, it takes us 11 months and $72,800 to prop them up so they can go out and write their first ticket on their own. All of our officers are 100% fully certified, except for the delay in getting them in the academy. And the dilemma is they only run 2 academies a year, one in late July and one in January. And I know in this academy, the Vermont State Police took 22 slots. None of the rest of us are given that many slots, and we get on waiting list. I can tell you that when I tried to get someone in this academy, by this last time, they would have been 43rd on the waiting list. So we're trying to encourage the academy to either have a 3rd academy during the course of the year or to expand the number of officers they'll allow into an academy class. I think the state police situation is unusual, but that's a lot of slots, 22 of them, and there are only 32 allowed in the class, I think.
So isn't there, you can't even use those people for administrative duties before they go to training?
Here's the tricky part. If I don't hire them as a police officer and don't swear them in, I can use them for Parks Patrol like we've done this summer. And I can give them a lot of those kind of busy tasks to do.
Doesn't help you on the street, though.
The minute I swear them in, they have to be with a field training officer. And then it really ties up the field training officer. And of course the officer. Nobody would prefer the other dilemma is even if I hire a certified officer, so I have a couple of officers from out of state, if they haven't been a police officer for a minimum of 3 years in the other state that they come to us from, they have to do the police academy all over again.
Wow. I'm done.
Any other comments?
Just a question.
No, congratulations on the hard work
Thank you.
accomplished.
Thank you.
Quick question on the street crimes unit. What's your average day look like, if there is one?
I don't think there's any such thing as an average day.
I mean, what do you see yourself doing primarily?
Yeah, we don't have an average day per se.
I'm sorry, if you could come up and just
You
stand
sit at
near
the table,
Chief
right?
Taylor. The mics can't pick you up. There's
All
a
right.
lot of background noise.
Over behind them. We don't have a typical average day per se because we don't have the same function as patrol. We may have some days that run very long with drug investigations, some days that it's just cleaning up paperwork. For everything that you see in the messenger that we've done, there's 4 to 5 days worth of paperwork where you won't see us to clean it up so we can get people into court and hopefully get them where they belong. But a lot of time we spend in positions where you just won't see us. You won't see a black and white cruiser, you won't see a uniform or a shiny badge. It's watching all the problem areas, meeting with informants, setting things up. So probably about 80% of the time we're not seen until that 20% where you see us, and that's what makes it on Facebook or in the papers. So it's a little bit more covert than the overt patrol functions.
So is the street crime unit 100% staffed right now?
With overtime, yes, from the assistance of the patrol officers. I can't pull that officer full-time until we bring those other officers online.
Do you find that the state's attorney's office is backing you up?
100%. We've had nothing but those.
Did you expect him to stand there and say no?
Well, you might.
My experience, yes. So far, we've had 100% cooperation with state's attorneys. What people recognize as a failure of the state's attorneys usually falls on the hands of the courts. When you see somebody that's arrested for sales of cocaine for the third time, and you see him back in the same place a week later, it has nothing to do with anything on our side.
State's attorney is prosecuting, but you're not getting the convictions or the incarceration.
I mean, it's part, it's on the state's attorneys to get, to fight to get a conviction, but it's also on judges to uphold things.
I personally am not happy with the results I'm seeing. You guys, you do your enforcement, your EMTs and your social workers, you're doing your job 100%. You nail a guy, he's had so many arrests against him, they put him right to the prison, they bring him out, and they send him to rehab.
Well, by no means am I satisfied with the results.
You know exactly who I'm talking about.
Well, I could probably give you a couple more names. You could.
To me,
For some instances, you arrest somebody for drugs and they're free until they go to court, right?
One female 3 times in a month and a half.
That is correct. She's
So they're free to do business until they get caught again, until they go to court, one or the other.
Well, I just would tell you that it's going to be worse because they changed the bail law in the state of Vermont effective July 1st. So now it's even harder to lock somebody up. And if you're going to lock them up, the state's attorney has to get out of bed in the middle of the night, write the information to charge the individual with before you, and the state's attorney has to agree on a bail before you call a judge. And the first question a judge wants to know is, have you talked to the prosecutor?
What I can tell you is the state's attorney in Chittenden County is not prosecuting possession of Suboxone, illegal possession of Suboxone, which people are trading for drugs and they're using it. They're getting scripts and selling it. They're not charging that in Chittenden County, and I believe Grand Isle and Franklin County are still fighting that fight, and they're still requiring us to charge them, and they're bringing the fight. Whether it's going to hold up much longer, I'm not sure.
I see it in the paper, and the sheet, where specs come out, and individuals picked up for possession of drugs and released on bail.
Yeah.
Till court.
I think I shared with you when we formed this unit that nobody goes to jail in the state of Vermont for drug violations, not for drug possession. You have to be a mule, and you have to be moving a lot of dope for you to end up in jail.
Unreal.
even if you're a mule chief, they're free.
So I will tell you, and I'm very pleased about this, that I've heard from everybody, from the highest-ranking state police officials, from DEA, from ATF. They've all come to take a look at what we're doing up here because they're amazed at the progress and the success of the unit. And if I were to explain to the public what we're doing, I would say the difference between what we're doing and maybe what traditional drug units are doing is traditional drug units fish with a pole, and they're after a specific type of fish. We're fishing with a net.
Yes.
So I can tell you right up front that we catch a lot of small fish, we catch some medium fish, and every now and then we get really lucky and we snag a big fish. I can tell you that the U.S. Attorney's Office, Christine, has been excellent in supporting us. She's adopted 3 of our cases so far, and I anticipate that she'll adopt another one in the very near future. And she's suggesting to her law enforcement partners that they take a look at what we're doing. It's a little different strategy. We didn't invent anything. We're just fishing with a net as opposed to with a pole.
Yeah, but you're doing a catch and release, though.
Well, this is what I would tell you, is sometimes what it takes for that one person who's a small fish is the embarrassment of their name being in the paper and their family and the support mechanism they have around them suddenly goes, holy cow, I didn't realize, and they will help them to get into some type of rehabilitation, and I'm okay with that if that's what we're doing. You know, we have the fringe group that we're just going to arrest over and over and over, and every community has a fringe group. So we're really looking to grab the mules and the people who are smaller, who really need help before they get into serious trouble.
My only other question about drugs would be, last year you say you had 34 fatal overdoses?
Significant overdoses,
Significant
yes.
overdoses, and then 20 shots of the...
Naloxone.
Okay. Okay. So what is the most common, would you say, drug of choice for somebody that overdoses like that?
For an overdose, it's predominantly been heroin.
You see a lot of fentanyl?
Yes, what you get a lot of times is we don't get, if someone just simply overdoses, and they're brought back with naloxone and they go to the hospital or even don't. So the amount that we have recorded for doses administered for naloxone, you could probably double that for the ones that don't get reported, where somebody, this medicine is given out and they'll administer it to a friend, and we're not going to call the police because obviously something is going on here. But people aren't overdosing on crack cocaine, it's fentanyl or heroin. We used to have fewer opiate, like oxycodone, stuff like that, overdoses. But the trend is starting to lean more towards crack cocaine.
Is that affordability or?
Roughly the same price. Number of different reasons depending on who you talk to. A lot of it, people are losing friends to overdoses. Like we said, the amount of overdose deaths that we've had in the last few years is a significant jump in what we've had in probably the 10 years prior. So I think it's a little bit of fear, and it's a little bit more of the kind of addiction that it brings. People get a little bit more sicker from heroin, and they're therefore more likely to turn over on their dealer for that fear of sickness. So dealers know, well, if I can bring something up that they can do a day or two in jail on being sick for crack, and doesn't cost. They do a day or two being sick for heroin, they're going to tell them everything.
Okay, Trevor. Thanks very much, Trevor. Unfortunately, you're going to have your job is almost lifetime employment. Sadly, right?
Fortunately, it is. But I do think we're making a difference. I have been at some select board meetings in Franklin County, and they've expressed concern about the fact that our drug dealers are relocating.
Okay, yeah. That's,
Anything else?
Thank you, Chief.
okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, okay.
Can I ask a question?
Bob, yeah, please, go ahead.
Chief, with the change in the marijuana possession laws July 1st and the corresponding concern with impaired driving, does the department have any DREs right now, drug recognition evaluators? And if not, are we planning on getting some?
Yeah, we had 3 until Captain Hogue left, and he's one of the main trainers in the state of Vermont. We still have 2. The intention would be to replace the 3rd one. There are DREs that have been made available to different areas, so if we don't have one on duty or in-house, we can call for one. Traditionally, we're the ones that get called, and we're not the ones calling for one, but we are. It's a tough situation, as you well know, with the marijuana thing. We basically legalized possession. We didn't legalize sale. We didn't legalize use. We didn't, nothing. The only thing that got legalized was possession. So it's kind of a silly law. We should have thought about that before we did it. And we have no mechanism to measure impairment.
Are they holding classes right now?
There's nothing going on this minute. I am aware that there are some DRE sign-up programs.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Chief, one more quick question. You still can't smoke marijuana in public, is that correct?
Yeah, it's against a lot of used marijuana.
Okay.
You can possess it, you just can't use it.
Oh, just one of those great laws.
Yeah.
Another great law.
Bill, I have a question of Lieutenant Weatherby. In that recent release, where somebody used the word gangs, could you explain what that was all about?
Word gang?
Gangs to protect somebody, child
We were
protection?
talking about the issue down at the bay.
Oh, yes. That's not good.
Yeah, I'll swap with him, how's that?
So to speak to the issue down at the bay earlier in the week, a couple weeks ago, there was a motorcycle group down there. It's called Bikers Against
Violence or something.
Children
Protection.
Cruelty or Cruelty,
abuse.
Child abuse. That's right. That's the one. Child abuse. It's called BACA. There's several chapters around the world. It's not just a local one. So what they did is they came up. There was a child there that had been abused. Had a court hearing coming up with DCF and the court like a week later, and the concept of them being there was to in their words, to empower the child and make the family feel safe and protected. They ran into a little bit of an issue by their own admittance with another local motorcycle club, Vietnam Vets, were allegedly following them around, making their presence known, not too happy that they were here, according to them. So that's the incident they were talking about earlier.
And so what's the police position on having gangs be civilian protectors, or whatever you want to call them, vigilantes?
I can talk pretty loud so you can probably hear me, but it's not illegal to be in a gang or to form a gang in the state of Vermont. We've known about the activities of some of these groups for 3 or 4 years, and generally their presence is felt by the community, but they do not blatantly engage in criminal conduct. And if they do, then we're pretty good about confronting them. In this case, Lieutenant Weatherby went right down and spoke directly with them. And I have spoken with local members of the other clubs on any number of occasions. They know what our feelings are about that. They're pretty proud of their colors, but we're pretty proud of ours too. So we wear ours and they wear theirs, and we explain that if they cross the line, that we're going to enforce the law. There's really not much more we can do than that.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
On the gangs, Chief, I'll be quick. I think Mrs. Oliver has been involved with a gang. Did you work for Spears Funeral Home?
I'm sorry.
Did you work for Spears Funeral Home?
Did I?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
A gang. Sergeant Johnson was killed in Afghanistan. Military vet. And we had his service up. I worked for Heels Funeral Home, so we had a service up in Richford with the senators attending, the governor attending, the general attending, state troopers attending. And you know what? There was a motorcycle gang there. For anybody that showed up to burn the flag, they'd have taken care of it. And I support them. I don't know if they're a good gang, bad gang, but they were doing the right thing, so I'll support them.
You can check out that club too online. You can Google BACA, BACA, and they have a presentation. For what it's worth, you can check it out.
Just as a personal opinion, I have a problem with gangs trying to enforce the law. I'd much rather leave it to the police and authorized legal agencies.
We have the same problem. I do want to clarify, the Vietnam vets are not necessarily veterans. The combat vets are veterans, and people get those two confused all the time.
Okay, again, thank you very much. Okay, now continuing with our policing or segment of our meeting tonight, we have 2 candidates for the Franklin County Sheriff's position. And I'm going to have them come up in the order they appear in our minutes. Roger Langevin, followed by Thomas Oliver. What I'd like to try to do is limit each of you to about 5 minutes, or if one goes over, the other one can have the same amount of time. Okay?
All right. I'll try to do my best.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Okay, so you have the floor.
Thank you for letting me come here tonight. You're the 15th select board that I've been to in Franklin County since I started my campaign. I'm a retired Vermont State Trooper. I retired as a detective sergeant out of the Intel Division. I was a supervisor there for 2 years. What we did there is we collected information, a lot like what the chief was talking about, on drug dealers and what was going on. And we analyzed that information, we coupled it with other information, and then we sent it back out in the field as actionable intelligence, where someone, law enforcement agencies, whether it be federal, state, county, or municipal, could act upon that to advance their criminal cases. Prior to that, I was a patrol commander 8 years, spent most of it here in St. Albans, had a year in Lamoille County, and prior to that I was a road trooper in Lamoille County, Chittenden County, and also Franklin County. Currently I'm with the St. Albans Police Department. I've been with them 4 years. I'm working in the schools with education and training. I do a lot with the department as far as like reading policies and that type of thing, and making sure that we're up to date on some issues as I see them. I also wanted to mention, Brendan, you mentioned In 2017, we had 107 deaths of heroin statewide. 61% of those deaths of heroin involved fentanyl. The prior year, 2016, we had 106 deaths, and 50% involved fentanyl. So we're seeing fentanyl more and more here in Vermont. So we're going to see the heroin problem increase as we go along. Currently, we've experienced 310 overdoses this year in Vermont. 86 of those have been fatal. So we're right around 120 to maybe 130 is what we can expect, for the end of the year. I think a big part of this is going to be how we're going to get in front of it. I see schools and education, the younger kids. We've been a pill-popping society for a long time. We need to get out of that. We need to stop that. We need to, it's not okay to take pills if you don't need them. Kids today freely, if it's a prescription pill, whether it's assigned to them or not, they'll take it. And I think that's helping to fuel our drug habits. We need to get in front of that. And we start in the schools. I'm a big proponent of the school safety program. Other things I'd like to increase are patrols. You heard the chief say that he's driving the drug dealers outside of St. Albans City, St. Albans Town, and that's true. That's called the displacement theory in law enforcement. Whenever the heat gets strong, the police presence gets strong in an area, the drug dealers are moved to a lesser presence. So we need to increase our presence in other towns. I've spoken with Bakersfield, Montgomery, Fairfield. They can't afford coverage. We need to look at some funding that we can help them afford coverage. We just recently had a pretty big drug deal and a successful prosecution up in Fairfield. The incident in Highgate all revolved around drugs where there was a murder. I mean, these are our outlying towns. So we need to be aggressive when we do increase our presence in those areas. And there's ways we can do that. When we have DUI funding, nothing says we have to be on the interstate doing the DUI checkpoints or the click it or ticket checkpoints. We can be on Route 36. We can be on Route 108 in those small towns and being just as effective. So I see those as big challenges to helping those small towns that don't have any police protection currently. The state right now has a Bill S-273 where the state police will no longer take town contracts. They envision themselves down the future to be on the highways and major crimes. So it leaves the sheriff's department in a great opportunity, and my vision is to get policing throughout all the towns in Franklin County. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. What do you think would be your biggest challenge if you became the sheriff for the...
I found my biggest challenges right now were the communications with the smaller towns who did not have contracts. They would call for service and they wouldn't get service. Sometimes they might get service 3 hours later. We can't have that. We got to have calls of service to be immediate. You got to be heading to a complaint. You need to prioritize if you've got complaints backed up, but you need to be able to respond to complaints quicker than 3 hours, or if not at all. In sitting with these smaller select boards, I see a lot of missed opportunities to have helped them out. A great example is Montgomery. When they had J Peak being built, they had no idea what that would do to their small little town. It's increased the traffic tenfold. Now they've got a pedestrian problem with the traffic, or I should say a traffic problem with the pedestrians. They need crosswalks, they need some signals, they need some more, some better pedestrian safety things to ensure pedestrian safety. As they're trying to increase their community, and they can't do it. There's been a lot of ATV activity in the outlying areas with no policing. We need to get out there. Bakersfield was one. Fairfield was another one. When I was waiting for that meeting, a four-wheeler came up on Route 36 riding a wheelie. There was no policing out there. So it's getting kind of wild on the outer edges here and stuff. St. Albans is the place with 24-hour policing. I mean, it's going to push all that other stuff to the outside, and it has. The street crimes unit is great. It's a small portion of what I was just telling you now, having information and technology to go out and get the criminal. When you have a resident that calls you and 2 days later they see the police are doing something at that residence, that's impressive. Albeit it might be small, it's not the big kingpin, as the chief was saying, but it's responsive. And that's what people want. State's attorneys are on board. They're on board because if the police aren't doing anything, the state's attorneys get the calls next.
Would you continue your relationship that's been built over the years with the Border Patrol, with your counterparts?
That's a tricky situation. It's federal law versus state laws. You're walking a fine line. I can recall where the Grand Isle Sheriff's Department got sued, for asking some immigration questions to an individual who was not part of the process. As the sheriff, I would adhere to the fair and impartial policing for everyone that's out there. I'm not going to get dragged into the state, federal issues that are going on there. And I don't want my department dragged into there because I frankly can't afford too many $30,000 lawsuits.
Thank you.
We're at about 5 minutes now.
Good, thank you, yep. Okay, well, any questions for anyone?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Who is supposed to respond in Berkshire when they don't have any incidents? Is it the sheriff or is it the state?
Well, it's typically the state police. I understand right now they're down to 12 troopers out of the St. Albans barracks. When I was a patrol commander there, we had 19. They're downsizing. They have detective troopers. Will they call somebody out? Again, I think it's on a priority basis. If it's something that can wait, they won't call anyone out till morning. If it's something immediate, I think they would absolutely send somebody. But the timing of sending someone to get dressed, to get out there and respond could be a long time.
So it's the state police that are supposed to respond to the outlying.
Correct. Yep.
And the sheriff's basically by contract?
By contract. Yep.
Does that have anything to do with the time of day? I mean, don't they go on and off shifts? I don't know. We don't want to publicize the time. But
Right.
They go on and off shifts at certain times of the day where one overlaps the other.
Correct. Yeah. You're talking about the state police, I presume.
Yes, I am.
Yep. Yep. And then they have someone on call till
Yeah.
like midway through the morning, and then
Okay.
someone else comes in.
You were saying that the state police cannot contract with the towns, or the sheriff cannot?
The state police cannot.
State police,
Yeah.
okay.
They're gonna be prohibited in 2019 from taking any additional contracts. I don't think they have many now.
Swanson's the only one I know of.
Right.
Okay, then. Okay, Roger, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. You had 9 minutes, so Tom is going to get 9 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Tom, you're up.
Thank you.
I'm Tom Oliver, your other candidate. Give you a little brief history of myself, because not too many people know my history. I grew up basically in Burlington. I went to Burlington High School. When I finished there, I went on to Champlain College and did the law enforcement social services thing. While I did that, I worked as a non-commissioned position at Burlington PD for 3 years, where I got to see and do a lot, learn a lot. 1988 is when I went to the part-time basic school, and I worked for Williston Police Department. I worked for the Williston Police Department for about a year, and I came to Franklin County, and I worked for 2 years up here until 1990 when I became a full-time certified officer. They sent me away to school. And I stayed pretty much in the patrol ranks for a while. I became a sergeant. Kind of oversaw the shifts at night with all the people. Became a field training officer, firearms instructor, patrol rifle instructor. Was just very interested in law enforcement in general, so I stayed active in it. I was a training assistant at the Vermont Police Academy for a while. Worked with Amcare Ambulance for over 10 years and was also a deputy warden. And then when Bob Norris was elected, I became a state deputy. And I've been there for the last 19 years plus. I've been a lieutenant where I was dealing with mostly scheduling, maintenance, training were my responsibilities. Since the captain retired, I've been promoted to captain, chief deputy, where I'm now pretty much all daily operations I'm running, daily, weekly. And that's where we're at with that. I have gone up to some other towns and spoke to them about their issues, such as Mr. Langevin. I just was up in Bakersfield, and I have helped them. We've entered into some agreements regarding their four-wheeler problems and speeding issues and things like that. I think it's very important that the sheriff's office does what we can for the small towns that can't afford any enforcement. But we can't just go and do it for free because we have expenses and payroll and everything to meet. We're reaching out to other towns to supplement their coverage, basically.
by traffic safety grants, Governor's Highway Traffic Safety Grants, progressive driving funds, which we all have a hold of in our office now to utilize. The biggest hurdle has been staffing. We are at about average level to function. We need a few more so that we can add on these extra details to take care of some of these smaller towns. We have 4 people in the part-time school coming up, and we have a 5th that is now enrolled in the full-time school. So by December, we'll be really online for going forward with a lot of those projects as well.
So with you being presently in the sheriff's department right now, what changes would you make if you became sheriff?
Nothing drastic right away. I mean, we have a budget, which is minimal. A lot of the other monies that we have that we need and rely upon are monies that are earned. So if I take any immediate actions that are very costly, it's going to have a dramatic impact on the sheriff's office. So they have to be planned and thought out a little bit in the future, such as adding a detective. You know, that's going to take some serious planning and funding.
Excuse me, adding a new what?
Like a detective, for instance. We do have, pardon?
Are we at that point?
Not yet. Shortly.
We do have great working relationships with pretty much all of the other agencies in the county, to include Border Patrol, Customs, even the military, the state police. I work with them and talk to them on a daily basis regarding issues. We're cooperatively working on a few other things to try and get some domestic violence stuff taken care of. We just entered into an agreement or a memorandum of understanding with Northwestern Counseling and Support Services to get a therapy dog / tracking dog for people that have wandered away that are mentally handicapped. Something that I've been working on with the state police as well. Any questions?
I'm all set.
I have a question. I happen to have the Rankin County budget, and St. Albans town pays the largest portion, $77,000, to the Rankin County Courthouse, and that's a lot of money for us. And other communities, you know, like Bakersfield, I think is $9,000, and I hear you guys talk about going to Bakersfield, where we're not, our contract with St. Albans Police, no question. That money we pay in is just for the court system, I take it?
My understanding is it's for the courts, it's for the staffing of the courts at the court level, equipment, training. We can't use county monies for law enforcement purposes.
So none of that 7,000 dwindles down to the sheriff's department?
Bill, I think Assistant Judge Johnson is very eagerly
Yes, I'm
ready
sure
to
he
answer.
can
Bob can give us a full rundown.
Well, I think I'm better able to answer your
Qualified,
questions.
right, yeah, okay.
When it comes to the budget, that budget of which we pay $77,000 from the town encompasses certain of the deputies' conditions, which are required by Title 24, were to provide housing for the sheriff's department and essential services and some equipment, but not the cars. The rest of the money is for the upkeep of the courthouse, our court staff. So it's not just the sheriff's department, it's not just the courts department.
Right, but the sheriff's department is 54% of it.
Depending on how you split it off, because
No,
two of the employees that work in the sheriff's department are county employees, they're not sheriff's employees. And that's part of their budget that's been split out now.
who do they work
Their
for?
bookkeeper and the secretary are required to be paid for by the county by Title 24.
Who do they work for?
See,
They work there, but they
Yeah,
actually
that's
work
all
for
I
the county.
need. Yeah, they work for the sheriff, but the county pays for them.
And we have to by statute.
Were they supervised by Bob?
They're supervised by the sheriff, but their raises and everything else are governed by what the assistant judges dictate on a year-to-year basis. We get an evaluation from the sheriff on their performance, and then we take the actions that are commensurate with that.
Now,
And they are,
who covers prisoner transport?
We'll give you extra time.
I've
In
already
on your
stopped the
time.
clock, okay?
well, they are there to support the mandated functions of the sheriff's office, which are civil process and transportation of prisoners.
Does that cover the sheriff you have in a courthouse for law enforcement?
That's a separate contract.
Separate contract.
They have a contract with the state for the security on Lake Street, and they have a contract with the county and the state co-joined on the Church Street Courthouse.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
That's 34,000 there.
Approximately.
Yeah, security for the courthouse.
Right.
Any other question for Mr. Oliver before we let him go?
No, maybe he's got some more he wants to tell us, so we used up some of his time.
Okay.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How many employees are in the sheriff's department?
There's 33 sworn and 2 administrative.
Are the 30 or plus or minus, are they full-time or full-time and part-time?
I believe 12 are full-time certified, to include myself, the sheriff, and, other full-time day staff.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
about the same amount of time minus the time that
That's right. So,
Johnson was
Thank
able
you.
to.
try to be fair and.
Tom, we appreciate what you guys do. We really do.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you both for
Thank
coming
you,
in.
Laurie.
Thank you.
Starting to
Okay.
get too steamy in here.
Okay, so the next item we have on our agenda is the report of the Infrastructure Steering Committee. Who's going to be making that presentation?
I'm actually going to start off, but we do have a couple members of our infrastructure committee here, Tim Hurlbut and Dick Dickinson. And you should have the report in your packets. One prepare, and Jen Destel is here. Could you come up, Jen, just in case? Jen's going to be here to if you answer any questions. I just wanted to briefly go back a tiny bit.
You want to explain who Jen is?
Yes,
Jen.
Jen Desautel is an engineer with Trudell Consulting Engineers, TCE as we often call them. Jen and Peter worked on this project, I believe together. I'm not sure what the work split was, but I know that they both worked on it and are engineers. So in case there was any questions, she was coming here to, I hate to do this, but I'm gonna have to shut it off, answer questions. So just to frame it up quickly, and I'll do this in like a minute, the Department of Public Works project started along with the appointment of the Infrastructure Steering Committee last year, around June, July of 2017. The priorities, I think it's important to go back and identify, were that the committee was to look at what the town's needs were, identify and resolve and hope to fix building deficiencies, operational challenges, and to eliminate environmental impacts. So what that really means is we looked at how are we able to provide our services both now and in the future to the citizens of St. Albans. And the committee met extensively, probably once a month for almost a year, if not more, and came to the realization that a similar end result was that we suggest and recommend the DPW move from its current location on the lake to a new facility. The Selectboard was a couple different times consulted. They seem to be really supportive of our Brigham Road property, which is 73 acres of town-owned land on Brigham Road, right next to the train tracks. So this past spring, we went out and got some more information from TCE about how possible it would be to build that facility on that location. The committee worked with Richard Cummings on the actual building. We brought that to you in June 4th, I think it was. Then the TCE and Jen Desautel and Peter Mazurik focused on what it would cost to do site work and to do how much it would cost for the salt shed. So to have a complete package that we could then bring to the taxpayers in November, we needed to know how much this would cost. So in doing that, we have a project for you. We have some project costs in front of you. I think the one bit of information you didn't have is I went back to the professional construction estimator that we worked with back in 2015. The question to him was, if we built that project, the same project, using all the same same materials and style at that point, how much would that project cost today? What were the inflation factors that have applied to construction in the last 3 years? His answer to me was that the inflation has roughly been, and I have a spreadsheet that I can and will pass out to you guys, that inflation factors over the past year averaged about 7%. So in his estimation, and he breaks this down with supporting documents, that the gross increase since 2015 was about $551,000, 467, or about 22% more than it would have cost in 2015. So what he's saying, and when we try to compare, I think apples to apples, we should look at how much that project costs to build today versus the one we're proposing. And I bring that cost up because we're all taxpayers. We all want to make sure we get the best value and the best bang for our buck. And for this project that we're talking about today, we expect the cost per square foot to be a lot less than that proposed in 2015. So it's hard to believe, and I know it's probably not initially, doesn't make sense, but we're proposing more square footage, and so your cost per square foot generally goes down. The project has a really good value in that it's what the town needs. We're including a wash bay to extend the life of hopefully all of our assets, and the salt shed is fairly similar in size, but so that's not where you're going to see the efficiencies. So today what the committee is hoping, and I'm going to ask Dick Dickinson and Tim if I've forgotten anything major, but the 2015 cost per square foot was in today's dollars, $268 per square foot versus 218. We're at 178. Some of the building and things we're building have to be built to a commercial standard. They're going to take abuse, and I think we're all hopeful that this thing lasts for 50 to 75 years. So we're proposing this building to the select board and hoping you have questions and asking how we got to any of those numbers. Jen's here along with some committee members.
Before we go, so does this new building need to be sprinkled?
Does the new building need to be sprinklered?
Yep.
Rick did the building. We were did the site work portion, so I did not look into
You
that
don't
specifically.
look at that, because the man we had 2015, we sprinkled
We did.
so you can deduct that piece out of that money.
The state law with fire code for commercial grade buildings are every
No,
2,500 square feet either needs to be sprinkled or firewalled.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I just went through it.
Well, I mean, we can look at that. I mean, honestly,
So we can't, if we're going to compare one to the other, we need
Sure.
the same thing to compare to. And what I've heard so far, it's a little bit different.
The sprinkler part we can address and change that number. It'll probably bring that
Right.
number down a little
And
bit.
hopefully this time we've done away with a lot of we had conference rooms, square footage in the old building, which cost more to construct than open bays. So I don't see us really comparing the same things. So
I have to say, I was guilty the last time of challenging that last project, calling it a real Taj Mahal.
right.
There were a lot of things in there that I felt wasn't necessary, a huge meeting room and things like that. We don't need that kind of thing. I think we're back to much more to bare bones today, much more functional, more practical. So it won't be a Taj Mahal.
Right.
Okay.
Very functional.
Yes.
Functional, yes.
For what they need.
I
So I can't compare the prices. That's the only thing I'm trying to weigh out here from what we wanted back 2015 to what we want today. Two separate buildings.
To say that you're gonna pay less money if you build bigger, I don't think is exactly a true statement.
I'm
Because
sorry
the
if I
co-
led you to believe that. That's
No, no,
not,
no.
it's just
Per
a better
square foot,
value.
Per square foot.
Per square foot.
Yeah.
It's gonna be more
Okay,
per square feet.
okay.
Yep.
Because concrete's so much a yard, boards are sold by the board foot,
Yes.
shingles are by the square. You don't. ST Grizzle's not gonna give you a deal on concrete. He's gonna charge you for every yard that you need to pour a foundation or a slab.
Basically, I think we got a really good value for what we planned, because Rick Cummings is really good at building and saving money. And he spent hours, Tim and I were not involved in the minute details of the construction of this building. Rick and Alan Master were very involved in the detail. And they cut out all the stuff that we don't need. We
Right.
put the one place, something new. That is a major.
We're not talking about that at all. We're talking about the comparison that was done. That's the only thing.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of fluff in this building.
There's not.
Construction
There-
building that's made, so if they open the garage doors, they don't lose all the heat, there's radiant heat, they heat up quickly, and things like that. So there's different parts of this system
Right, so-
that are gonna make it work really well.
Throw that comparison
I
out
think
as far as I'm
I
concerned.
think you increase some of the cost by moving the location of the building. There's no doubt in my mind. Okay? I don't understand why the building sets where it sets now, when in 15, we had a location, we did test pits for a septic system and everything. All the test pits passed. The location was good. The road that we presently have there was the road we're going to use. We don't have to get easements didn't have to get easements from the railroad. I mean, I think it's my opinion, construction is my world. I work it every day. I'm as familiar with it as Richard. And I believe by moving a building where you guys put it, you increase some of the costs for site work. I'm not saying the building itself, the structure itself, price isn't bad on that. What I'm amazed with is the other cost, site work cost, very high.
I think we leave some of the site work up to Jen.
Well, and to that end, I knew you might be concerned about it, so Jen actually did an analysis on perhaps just going in straight from Brigham Road, utilizing the same access.
Just let me bring up a couple more things here.
Sure, we were
Oh,
just,
okay.
okay.
Moving the septic system, okay, relocating the building, you relocated the septic system. So now you're saying that for this particular location, a mound system would not be adequate for that building. Because two reasons. One, test pits didn't qualify, and two, the wastewater that's going to come out of the wash bay.
I think maybe it sounds like there's some misinformation here. Trudell Consulting didn't come in and suggest that we shift the building, as far to the back as we could. We were asked to look at this particular location, which we did. And we looked at both providing on-site for this parcel and looking at connecting to the municipal system. So we were asked to look at all of the options and not just to look at one thing or the other thing.
Okay.
Nobody has already made a decision that we must connect to municipal. There is available septic capacity within the vicinity of this parcel. That's not very far away from the existing building. So we did provide those costs. And so in this particular location, we looked at the alternative between connecting to the municipal system and the on-site system. And the difference in costs was the municipal connection was about $70,000 more than the on-site septic system. And there's some advantages to connecting to municipal. And, there's opinions one way or the other about how important it is to use on-site system. But as you mentioned, there is the some advantages to connecting to the municipal system, and once you connect, you're done, and it'll last a long time. And there's things that can be done to prolong the life of an on-site system, no matter what capacity you're using it in. So we provided both of those costs for the town to use in their analysis.
Tim, you want to?
I remember him telling me, because I specifically asked him if we used an on-site system with the wash bay, would that denigrate the on-site system? And he said yes. The problem is, I think he said, you couldn't use it or it would diminish the length of it.
That's correct. There's, it certainly would diminish the life of your septic system if you poured salt water into it. That's one option. There's other things that can be done, and we could look at those alternative costs. But I think a good long-term solution seems like the municipal connection makes more sense. But I understand there's some concerns about doing that, and we can talk about those alternatives if you'd like.
So I guess
the biggest question I have is what was the advantage in putting this building where you have it now? I can't see any advantages in it. I see disadvantages.
you were given this location.
We were given this location, but we did meet with town staff members and also Alan, the Public Works Director, and we talked about this specific location. There were some advantages to doing that. It was further away from the residential, and we talked about the potential for someday a parcel closer to Brigham Road being able to be sold off, but that's part of the current discussion, I think.
Okay, so being further away from the residences on Brigham Road?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
It's sort of tucked in behind the woods. We talked about whether or not the woods should stay or go, and it actually is sort of a nice location tucked in there. I drove out there today, and that little spot tucked in behind the woods is a good spot for, I think, the Department of Public Works. But we're not suggesting that this is the only place that this building could be located. At the time, we were asked to look at this location, and we did.
25% of the road is in the railroad right-of-way.
That's a big concern for me, because we don't have any right-of-way there at all.
And we gave, that was one of the options that we were asked to look at. We did that, and Carrie also asked me recently to look at the alternative of coming in. And it's sort of funny, it's a lot, you would think it's a huge, length difference, and it's really not that much. It's roughly 200 feet shorter to come in directly off Brigham Road. And we thought that the cost savings by doing that would be roughly $20,000.
Yeah, my concern about the issue, this entrance being off our property, is this could set things back a long time, because negotiating to get a right-of-way would not be easy, and particularly difficult dealing with railroads and getting property from railroads. So if time becomes an issue, that could be a deal breaker.
Sure, and I don't think that, Carrie, you could speak to this, but I don't think this site plan was intended to be set in stone. It was just one option. And, we provided the spreadsheets, so at this point it's, plugging in a new distance and the number pops out.
Yeah.
So we're
I
happy
think
to
there's a
provide
whole
that.
lot of things to talk about. I mean, I'm not willing to accept this plan tonight. I've got a whole bunch of questions, which we probably don't, if we're going to get through this meeting, I don't have enough time to go through each and every one of them with you. But I would like to discuss it with the board as well.
Make a list to take a look at.
Yeah.
Let the committee take a hard look
Yeah.
at it. We
I'll
really
make the
have to
list
get
and get
moving
it to
on
the
this,
committee.
too. Okay.
The septic system, what I understand by one of the experts, 3 to 4 years, we would have cooked our conventional mound septic system.
Well, what are you talking?
You don't need to run your water station through it, okay? So what you could, as an alternative, you could put in what they call cistern tanks. Doesn't go into the sewer, it doesn't go into stormwater, doesn't go through your septic. It goes into a large holding tank underground that you pump out. You put a large tank in and you pump it out maybe once or twice a year. We installed one for the Border Patrol in Richmond, the brand new Border Patrol station. They have a full-fledged car wash in there, an automatic car wash. Not a bit of that rainwater or the water that comes off the car goes through that wash, goes into stormwater or their mound system, and they have a mound system. It all goes into what they call a cistern tank. It's a holding tank that goes in the ground. It has an alarm on it that lets you know when it's 3/4 full, and you have it pumped out by Drumic or something like that. You put a tank in large enough so you only have to do that once or twice a year. And that is probably more sought after and easier to get than any way you can think of to get rid of that type of water, that type of gray water.
I am not the expert on stormwater, I would say.
Yeah, so for wastewater, as I mentioned, I think that the connection to municipal sewer is a better long-term solution for a number of reasons. And we can debate whether or not you should put
But-
the salt water in there or not,
Yeah.
or store it, and we can provide you with costs to do that, and
Sure.
what the cost would be to pump it out,
Now,
however often you think that would be, and compare the two costs. I'm happy to do that.
I think one of the big questions would be, does St. Albans take stormwater and gray water into their system? A lot of sewage plants don't.
I believe that they do.
Okay.
Well, they get it off the roads whether they want it or not.
Right.
Got a question on that property, the Brigham Road. If you went towards the city, there's a peon farm, and there's a sewer and water line up there. Is there any discussion about hooking onto that instead of putting in a mountain?
That is one of our options.
They've calculated the distance and pumping and all that, I believe.
That is the closest one.
They've looked at the numbers.
Yeah, they did a pretty good
Yes.
job of it, yeah.
I think that's where she's coming up with the $70,000.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Why don't we let,
Have you ever looked at anything as far as reclaiming water in those systems and doing the filtration and reuse?
Right. We did not look at that as part of the study, but if it's something that the select board would like us to do, we can
I know.
look at that.
Excuse me.
You go out and do 20 cars at a time. They'll some pump up what they're doing and it's filtering.
Yeah.
Just saving water.
Well, there's several things you can do. It's time and money.
So from the committee's point of view, we wanted to bring this to the election in November. So I think what's important is that if you have complaints or concerns now, we need to have them addressed quickly. So it's incumbent upon the members of the select board to get those written out within the next week so that the facilities committee can, and engineers can start looking at those variable costs.
I understand that, Al.
I know, but we have to do it tonight. We have to say, this is your homework. If it's not done by such and such a date, we're not going to look at it any further.
You know, I understand that the necessity in getting this before, on the, for November, the
Yep.
November ballot, but I'm not going to present anything on that ballot that I know is not going to get passed. Nothing. Zero.
You're taking it to the extreme. None of us are looking to hurt the public. We're trying to do the best we can for the public.
but we can't publish something to the public that we're not comfortable with.
That's why I'm saying you got to get the questions, because we're now at the deadline of time.
It's not our fault, Al. It's not our fault either.
Part of the issue is
Nope, it's this
some of
year.
us don't have enough of a critical eye to analyze this stuff, the expertise. Now, one of the points Bruce mentioned earlier was the overhang on the roof on the salt shed. Do you need it on both sides? If you have it on both
Yeah,
sides?
why do we need it on both sides? Why couldn't one side be adequate?
Because
if it's 150 feet long, you could have, what, 5 12-foot bays on one side of that garage, that salt shed.
That was
So the reason that they put the
10 rather.
overhang on both sides was to put a cover over all of our equipment. So they actually measured all the equipment we have and wanted to place it out of the direct snow and rainfall.
But I think the question Bruce was having was the cost of the whole roof structure
Yep.
to accommodate that overhang.
Yeah.
And that's, if it's going to cost X,
I'm-
is it worth X to cover it? I think that's the kind of question.
You-
that's-
you
To put a
you-
regular bay, is
Yeah.
that what you're looking
You-
at?
You typically don't see overhead doors on a salt shed. You typically don't see man doors. And when you're building something like this, you got to take the cost of maintenance into consideration too. We're going to build it, we get it past the voters, we got to maintain it. The reason you don't see overhead doors, you don't see man doors, is because of the metal parts that they have and the salt and everything that you have in the building becomes a maintenance nightmare, and you're constantly replacing them. Therefore, you see the large openings with no man doors, no overhead doors, so it'll breathe, air will get in and out, and that when a truck pulls in and it dumps a load, right, you want that door to be big enough and high enough so you can drive that truck out that opening without the driver making a mistake and tearing the building apart.
Ironically, we discussed that.
Hold on a second, Dick.
think I have the answer for you. Basically, what, in the last couple of years, there's been some major suits, people going in salt sheds, stealing salt, getting in an accident on the way home. So they're all new salt sheds, what I understand, they will have doors on them.
Well, I would say it's cheaper to put up a fence than it is to maintain an overhead door that big.
Well, this is what we understand,
Yeah.
the liability of the salt shed.
Yeah.
But most of the salt sheds will have doors. I know it's a liability to have a door, but it's also a liability not to have a door. And that's why we were doing. We probably didn't think we needed a door initially, and then someone said, because of all the suits, we need the one.
I totally disagree, but okay.
I think the source of that, if you'd like to debate it, was Dave Allerton. So he actually is one of the people that was at our committee meeting that day that supported the additional door, because we did have that debate at the meeting.
Yeah, Dave and I have been talking about this on a daily basis for the last week or so.
So that's to be
good.
determined.
Yep.
The other thing, we talk about heating, and getting electricity, whether it's single phase, three phase, getting water. I think a good alternative to a heating situation there would be solar panels on the top of the roof. Did we ever think about solar panels for a source of, heating water and possibly heat?
We have
Hot water heat for the building?
Not done that yet.
We haven't looked at it yet, but that's certainly, I think, an important input.
Boy, I think we should have this meeting. We should have this meeting a little earlier, or we
Had
should
the
probably
meeting on
call
June
it.
4th, though, so these concerns are
have
really
this stuff.
good. We didn't have the site work, but we had the building.
Bill, I'm going to make a suggestion that we have a special meeting pertaining to this, because this is quite a bit to talk about. And if we want to get this,
The Infrastructure Committee.
okay.
Yeah, I would certainly support that. There's a lot of these small points that are coming up, but maybe it's worthwhile to address them right now.
Yes.
We got to move quickly, like Al said.
Tim?
But the one to address it, he is not here.
Well, no, we'd have to have a meeting.
Knowledgeable in construction, Jen and Rick.
Yeah, okay, we'll have to arrange so when they're all here. So, be on board with that?
Yeah.
Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, Jen?
I'm happy to show up whenever you need me, and we will get the numbers back to you as quickly as possible. And I'm
That'd be
happy to
great.
show whatever doors or not doors you want on these
Fine
plans.
number, yeah.
We could just have the cost of the doors.
Yeah, participate in the discussion.
I would like to.
Okay.
Let's talk about moving that road back to the original location so we
Rick is
can,
very knowledgeable on buildings. He has built a lot of this type of building. He understands it better than I do, better than Tim does. And he's very common sense.
I think that's the underlying thing, a lot of common sense and experience, so that's
He and
important.
Alan, Carrie, all work together, and they work
together.
really well together.
So the 13th, you guys ready on the 13th?
I'm complaining,
That's
so
next
I'm going to
week.
be here whenever you want.
Gotta make sure that
Yeah.
Jen, I have a question.
Yes.
Wanna
The
start with
three-phase power that's running on the property, that's not a transmission line, it's too small.
You only have single phase.
We only
No,
have
no, it's three-phase.
There's some of those bigger transmission lines like that, they don't like you to tie into to directly. We have some correspondence with Green Mountain Power about that connection, and
The one that comes across our lot, they have the right-of-way on our lot.
yes.
we can't hook into that.
It is, it's not transmission, I don't believe, but it's three-phase.
If it's transmission, you can't touch it.
It's not transmission, it's too small. It comes right from the Agway place on Walnut Street. It comes, I was over there today and tried to follow it. Huh?
Read the
Substation
talking
there?
about service?
No,
We are talking about the electric service.
Why, did we read did everybody read the letter from Megan Lawler from GMP explaining that, they've got an easement in the property, and she explained it pretty well and gave a rough estimate and said that it might need a railroad permit, which would be an additional cost and time drag. And then she said that in order to bring three-phase power to the location would require a much more in-depth cost analysis, and she can start looking at that.
Yes, so tying into that the line that's directly there was not an option for
Wasn't.
Green Mountain Power. We can pursue that with them just to double check, but we asked about that, and they did not indicate that we were able to connect.
Would using this other road change that option?
I don't believe that'll change the option, but we
yeah,
can
it
look into
would,
that.
because There's a line right there across the road. You don't have to run along the railroad.
Right, it might save some time.
You'll save some money.
Poles, yeah.
You could open the option up.
Sure.
Sure, typically three-phase power is
Right there, go
expensive
ahead.
to obtain.
Right, right, and it would be in this case.
Going to Alan Master and Rick Cummings on both of these issues. We don't need three phases built. A certain amount of amperage, and that's it. There's nothing in the building.
Yes.
You have a generator, things go down, you have a firewater system, heating system. We don't need three phases, because that was not my question.
Yes, we did, we met with Green Mountain Power on site, and we have been talking to Rick about these type of issues.
So we want to look at August 13th? Okay. So we have a public meeting and this?
Yes.
Committee?
Yep.
Like a special meeting, a work session.
Just focus
Yep.
on work, and all the nitty-gritty details. Nitty-gritty details.
Nitty gritty.
Do you want any comments beforehand?
That would be helpful so they can
If
research
you
them,
had
yeah.
comments to help, questions to raise, sure.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
I'll look at you. Mr. Lawler.
Be any room involved in this, terminals and that nature?
We did not look at that as an
You brought up
option.
the solar panel, and I can throw it all out there.
I didn't hear this question.
Is there gonna be
He was
any
talking about
Thermal heating.
Thermal heating. Rick did work on all of the building infrastructure, interior to the building footprint, so he definitely knows a lot about this building.
It's gonna be similar way they did, whole big car garages around town. Similar construction, similar. I'm thinking it's going to radiant heat, so the garden doors, there's everything there, so we have fans, heating fans that will heat it quickly and then radiant heat the rest of the
Yeah.
year. So most garages, when you open the doors, you lose it, it stays cold for hours. This way, we're gonna heat the system, warm it up immediately, they go off, the radiant takes over again. So it's gonna be very efficient that way. And I don't think we talked a lot about solar.
Just an idea.
I think Rick is a little skeptical on solar because you put these big solar panels on our roof, you get a heavy wind, and they're always working.
Okay.
Who's gonna pay for the solar when you have to repair the roof 5 years after the wind?
Or as much as I dislike them, you could put a solar farm, small farm.
Or buy the net metering credits from that project on
Yeah,
Macquarie.
In the south corridor of wind, I don't think I put
Okay.
solar. I looked
So
at
that's-
my
yeah,
office, I
that's-
didn't do it because the wind's gonna lift those, it's always working those panels. And they say if you have a roof leak, the solar company says you're on their own, you pay for it, you have to take the solar off, the other roof and then put it back.
Yeah. So we'd have to see what
the
the,
cost of that. Anywhere, any of these buildings that are solar around are gonna have that problem shortly, because we have those south wind. So it's not gonna just go away, it's gonna be a major problem, and then it's all, everything.
But we do have
Wind
the,
is certainly something they take into consideration when they put those on roofs, winds and snow load.
Yeah.
but there is a solar farm going up nearby, which we could buy some of that electricity.
Just an idea, that's all.
okay. Okay, so this will be looked at in depth on the 13th, along with a lot of other issues.
So you're gonna have your questions, so we can have a plan before?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we'll get them to you
Get 'em ahead
before
of
the
time.
meeting.
You want to give it a due date or say by Wednesday night, so they have a couple of working days?
Like everything else, the sooner the better.
Yeah, but the committee has to meet long before Monday night.
Yeah.
So I think we really need the questions by Wednesday, so we have them Thursday and Friday amongst ourselves and working with Jen and Rick.
Right. Yeah, we need the questions.
Well, you should, whatever they are, you can be sure there's going to be in-depth, lengthy discussions and to try to settle all these things as we go forward.
Bruce, you're gonna be there at the meeting.
I certainly will.
Yeah. He'll take a vacation day if he has to.
Yep.
Can you make 4 o'clock? Are we looking
Yep.
at 5?
4 o'clock's good. Yeah, I can do 4.
Because our infrastructure meeting generally meets at 4, so that would work.
Are we talking for the 13th?
I am.
Yes.
I can't do it until 5.
Well, so you come late. That's it.
Now, how does that work?
You coming late?
You can read the minutes.
I'm gonna try not to take that the wrong way, but I'd like it at 5 if I could. I don't see the disadvantage. There's a lot of working people.
I'll support that.
I'm a working person, and I can
Well,
get
you
here
know,
at 4.
Well, that's a luxury that I don't have. I mean, we have members of the public that might want to attend that work,
So-
you know.
Oh, whatever, whatever.
I think, 4 o'clock works. It's worked very
I don't
before.
think it works. It doesn't work
Well, it
for
doesn't
me,
work
and
for
I'd
you.
like to be
so-
here.
So
know,
you
we're-
come late.
Okay, we're 1/5 equally,
Fine.
and I'd like to be here
So you can be there
at 5.
at 4. I don't care.
I don't care if it's 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock.
I
I'll
think
be there.
We have to finish this up now, I think. Okay, any other questions or comments before we go on? Okay, if not, I'd like to move to the next agenda item, Town Manager's Report.
Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, he's still here. All right, so we'll move on to the manager's report. The first one, I think, is going to be fairly quick, but I wanted to introduce you to our newest employee, the Assistant Animal Control Officer, Matt Marceau.
How you doing,
This is
Matt?
Matt. He's been on duty and getting trained for about a month now, and given the go-ahead from Dave to do some of his own enforcement.
Yep.
That's kind of it. I don't know if you have any questions. I just wanted people to get to know him. Do you have any other comments, David?
Basically, since he's been working with me, he seems to be very interested in the job. He's willing to learn, and that makes a lot of difference. And I've been having him do the town patrol as far as the parks, Bay Park, Cohen Park, and the dog park, checking to make sure the dogs are on leashes. In the dog park, of course, he checks for dog licenses. But we cover the park at night. I cover the park early in the day, so that way he's getting some hours, so that if you don't give your employee at least 7 to 10 hours a week, you're never going to keep
Sure.
him. So we also need to okay the shots, preventive shots.
Oh, man, why haven't you done that already? I mean, if he's out there.
You know, we wanted to make sure he was going to stay around, and
Oh.
I feel very comfortable with it.
Right.
Yeah, you have to give
Before
the
you
sh-
prick me a bunch of times,
Yeah,
I
you-
want to make sure I liked it.
Matt, you'd have to get the,
Wow. And he's still here.
Yeah,
leave early, you gotta get the shot back.
exactly.
And then we want to get him a cell phone, so that way he doesn't have to use his own personal.
Hey, so you got all the tools that you need, Matt, to do the
Yes,
job
sir.
and do it
Everything-
safely?
Yep, everything's been purchased by the town.
Good.
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for stepping up. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's going well.
Stay
Thank you.
safe.
Okay,
Thank you.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Sampson Road.
Hathaway Point I'm on. Yeah. Or no, I'm on Kellogg Road now, but I got a house on Hathaway too.
You got a good friend on the Sampson Road?
Yeah, the fiance.
How are you related to Art?
He was my uncle.
Uncle, okay.
Yeah, my
thank
dad's
you.
brother.
All right,
Yep.
thank you. All right.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks. The next item, it was discussed, I think, about a month ago. You have some information from VLCT about the marijuana ordinance, possible discussion, policy. I don't know what your preference is, but I tried to give you as much information as possible.
All I gotta say is thank you for the information, because I was really concerned about that. I thought, for some reason, that if you could smoke tobacco in public,
Yeah.
you could smoke marijuana wherever you could smoke tobacco. And I said, holy smokes. At the park, I mean, holy crap.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. So I'm good with that one.
So, I mean, there's no requirement you take action, but Bill had expressed some concern over it, so.
My question is, what do we want to do? And my
Right.
question is, well, what do we want to do regarding dispensaries? Sale of marijuana in these dispensaries. And that's something we can address if we wish. So it's a question of what do people want to do? Do you want to try to restrict the sale in dispensaries throughout the town or not? The smoking issue, whether you can't smoke in public at the moment until the legislature comes back into session, they'll change it, so you can smoke anywhere. Don't be surprised at that.
How can we market it or allow it to be marketed if you can't use it?
No, the way it is now, you can grow it, carry it, but you can't smoke it in public.
You can't sell
But you
it.
can't sell it.
Go ahead,
So
Bob.
why have it?
You don't have to let him talk.
But you can smoke
But he wants to.
in your house.
Your home, right, yeah.
And you're going to see some problems in your multi-dwelling homes. Because if the landlords don't do their proper new leases
Yeah.
that say you can or cannot grow it, you're going to have complaints from people that are in a 16-plex that have a family, and all of a sudden, the people on either side of them are growing and smoking pot. Their kids are getting secondhand smoke
Yeah.
coming in.
I can name a couple of locations where the houses will probably look like they're on fire half the time.
But you're going to have complaints come your way.
And the question about dispensaries is, if you allow them, do you allow them everywhere? Do you want to restrict them not too close to schools, not too close to it? Who knows? These are things we have to think about and decide on.
Now, does this dispensary locations, does that live in an ordinance or does that live in a bylaw update?
You can either do it through an ordinance or you do it through a zoning bylaw. But it's a question of what does the board, what's their preference? What do you think about it? And until there's some direction there's no point in trying to do anything. So I don't think we're going to come to a resolution on this at the moment.
Is there a quorum that wants to move forward, or you just want to let it go and think about it? What's the next step? I don't want to let it drop if you want to bring it up again.
Talk about it at our next
Well,
meeting.
we haven't
put some
really
thought
got,
into it.
this is not much input from
Information.
the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. I'd like to see a template, what they're gonna,
Well, what she said at the end of that is
Yeah,
they're not
that's-
actively looking for that, so
no, they're not gonna do anything.
not right now. They're not.
I think we should
So,
wait.
We'll wait with them.
Yeah.
So one thing on Bill's concern, and I've notarized a number of medical marijuana applications. They're the only ones that can buy from dispensaries. They're the only ones. You have to have a medical card issued by the state of Vermont.
Okay.
Signed off by, on the state of Vermont. Just to address your concern.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Just want to understand what you guys want to do going forward. For tonight, we can move on.
I'm gonna stand, let's wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bill?
Fine.
Wait.
Yeah, wait, just do nothing.
Okay.
Right
Yeah.
now.
See where it comes to the next session.
The next item is the Memorial and Community Recognition Policy draft, returning to you after some revisions, and not just cosmetic. There was some work done on the introducing the policy. So for those that aren't following us at every meeting, this is a policy that's going to be used so that people could gift certain memorial items at the Bay Park. And we're trying to document what those items are, the range, the cost, and manner in which we're going to memorialize someone and allow someone to make a tribute to. It's not just obviously in memoriam.
Well, I really like this. That's really nice. You can put a lot of people on that, and
And you can make it more free-flowing. Like that was, Brendan found that example online, and there's lots of examples.
this is up at the hospital. They have one.
There is one,
Yeah.
yes.
Probably
Yes.
not the same one, but yeah.
It's very
Yep.
similar to it.
Right.
I just think it's attractive. It's nice looking, and
What's a low-cost
you
way to
can
do it,
in
too?
one area you could put a lot of names. And,
That one also shows the stones at the bottom.
yeah.
The leaves, which are a little less.
Yeah, that was our most affordable option for folks. Now, the leaf on the tree, we're proposing $500 per, and then the stone underneath, proposing $1,000. And the nice part about a memorial or community gift tree like that is if you fill it up, you can always start a second one. The other end of the building.
I like it.
Thank you.
Stan, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't understand why we have on here, gifts shall not be accepted to advertise or recognize organizations.
It showed up in a lot of templates. It wasn't.
I don't care, but like the Marine Corps League, if they wanted to something for the
Yep.
American Legion for me, VFW, why can't the this gift is,
I don't mind social service organizations.
Yeah.
That's what
You,
you're talking
you
about.
absolutely can. And this is a select board policy and a
Yeah.
town policy. We can eliminate that if,
I'd like to see it eliminated.
Yeah, I agree with that.
okay.
What do you think, like nonprofits only, or we're just thinking not to commercialize it, so we
I
didn't
think
have
we
like
can
a
just
bulletin
leave it
boards down there.
open.
Well, the select board has the
Delete it.
ultimately decides anyway.
That's correct. My thought is if something came up that was questionable, you guys can decide. We can put the clause, can reject any and all if something's questionable,
I
but
don't think I want to leave anybody out. I mean,
I know.
it's a memorial. I mean, come on.
It's supposed to feel good,
Pick and choose.
positive.
For a memorial, you don't do that.
One technical question on the first line, you're talking about establishing a trust fund.
Well, could be a reserve account,
I
could
think
be
you don't want a restricted fund. You know,
Yes,
to
I
start
like
setting
that.
up trusts, that gets very
Yep.
complicated. And the other thing, and this is, it's an inconsistency, they're talking at the second line, just this in Albans Bay Park. But further on page 2, you talk about location of memorial items. That gets expanded to town forest or Cohen Park or whatever. So it might be, well, the focus at the moment is to help fund the restoration of the stone house down the bay. The memorials could be anywhere.
Yes. I mean, I think that was the intent. That comment at the end is just in case somebody approached you with a unique circumstance, which you could still accept anyway, so.
And I certainly hope we're not thinking about removing any of the memorials that are there now, like the benches.
Right.
Those are going to stay, right?
Alan's first choice was to place them around the walking path, so we're not going to get rid of them, but we're
Right.
going to make we would like to have the benches along the waterfront uniform, and those perhaps be the granite ones.
Yeah, because I walked it the other day and I thought those were,
So any existing
nice and-
memorials will not be affected.
That is correct. We're
Yes,
not.
trees and whatnot
Right.
already.
right.
He actually thought there was fewer. I can't remember the number, but it was less than 10.
There's not that many.
Had plaques on them, so
Yeah.
it's not the 20 that we have.
I know that this lady next door, Pat and her husband,
Yes.
they've got maybe 2 or 3
Oh.
benches down there that they've donated. I think they should stay.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And most of them are, obviously we have them out there in good working order. We don't
Yeah,
want
they
to
are.
get rid of them.
Yeah,
The bench design, the granite, everybody already.
it's fine.
With
Granite's
engraving on the back.
almost forever.
You put the engraving.
Well, another little comment here about under the goal, third line, this community donations will provide an important source of the town's discretionary funding. This is not discretionary. This is specifically for the memorial fund.
Yeah, it can't be discretionary.
No, so that kind of has to
I
change.
didn't read it.
I didn't find that discretionary thing. Oh, I see it.
See what I meant?
Yes.
Got it.
Just eliminate the word discretionary.
Yes.
I think that helps.
The other thing, and then further down, items of recognition. Anytime you have a whole shopping list of things, you always have to add a catch-all. You have to suggest you add something or other appropriate object, whatever that happens to be. Yeah, we talk about metal bench, granite bench, windows, granite blocks. It could be any. For example, a tree could be a memorial tree, right? So I'd suggest you add or other appropriate or approved object.
What's the last word, Bill?
Appropriate or approved object.
Objects, okay.
Okay, I think we got to be careful on a wide variety of items because it could become,
Yeah.
you know,
It's up to the
could
board.
become distasteful
Yeah,
in
it's up to
some
the board to
manners.
say yes or no.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
I mean, what I started saying is once you start a list,
yeah.
you know, you need a catch-all phrase. You know. Somebody said, well, gee, what about this? What about that? You
Yeah.
say, rather than to, keep revising policies. It allows you.
So what if somebody wanted a statue of Bill Nyan? Should we approve it or not
Say they're
approve
a
it?
damn fool and say no. I would vote against that.
Don't do that.
Can you? I'd be on there and all these damn pigeons on me. No, thank you.
See, that would look good next
I
to
know
the
you'd
swans.
like it.
Next to
I know
the
you'd
swans
fund
up
it.
in
You-
Swanton.
Right. Thank you. Right. That's why we don't have pigeons on here. We have geese.
We have
Better
geese.
yet, right?
And they would do that.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Any other changes?
Not
Thanks.
tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, the other thing I didn't like, reservation of rights. The board retains the right to withdraw the dedication and remove the memorial in the event that information is revealed or a situation arises which may cause the memorial or dedication to be inappropriate. God. Yeah, I mean, this is
Oh,
so,
boy.
to me, this is so politically correct. I would just take that whole thing right out.
Because the board does retain that right.
Yeah, we can always say we can
You don't
do
have to
but
have it
you
in
have
the
to stay.
policy. That's fine.
And the other thing is, I think we should have, under location of memorial items, I think we kind of need some kind of a site plan.
Yes, and at the last meeting, Alan said he's going to do that with pictures, so it's going to be very clear. If you pick this bench
I mean,
spot.
the idea that we have this walking path,
Yes.
we're talking about along here.
Yep.
We're talking in front or back of the math house and
Mhm.
possible places. Now, they don't have to be all written in stone, and no pun intended there.
That can be an attachment, the map.
Yeah,
with-
somehow, yeah.
Yeah, with identifying all of the spots.
And my other comment is, you have a photo of all these stones. They look like they've been dropped, chipped, and all broken up. These are like a rejects from a quarry. I think we should have nice, sharp lines on these stones.
You said you liked them.
I love the stones they have in the city are great. I think they're wonderful. That's the end of my comments on the.
It's much cheaper if you don't finish all three sides, four sides.
Well, well,
No,
I'd say
actually,
six
that has,
six
um,
sides.
That's become quite popular, actually. And
Yeah,
stuff.
these are not. It's not that they're not finished. They look like somebody took a sledgehammer to them.
Yeah, they have rough on
Right.
that. Yeah, they
It
do.
looks like an old footing.
Right.
We could get either. That's just
Yeah.
personal.
Anyway, that's just.
Okay, we're good?
I would just like to thank the committee for the hard work that they've done to put this together and organize it for us.
I agree.
All right. Bring it next time. Next item is just a review. I just wanted to let you know that we did apply for some grants for the town. Oh, what?
Well, if I can just
Town forest. It's on your, the last item on the agenda.
Did we get them, Gary?
I don't know yet.
Oh.
The ones listed, so this is for completing phase 1 and 2 of the master trail plan that we have up the town forest to create different paths of different abilities for a bunch of different people. I applied for the Department of Building and General Services. That one, just under $20,000. I don't know if we received it yet. I think we have a really good shot at that. We've received $8,000 from the Rotary Club, $4,000 from the local club, which was then used to leverage $4,000 at the district level.
So we've got 8,000 from the
Yep.
Rotary?
We received a Rise Vermont grant of $5,000, also used on our master trail plan. And I'm applying next week to the 100 Women Who Care group. They also give around $4,000 to $5,000 for local projects. I don't know, that can be a little competitive. So and we have one more mountain bike grant that we're applying for $5,000. So that. Question?
No, I'm just thinking, and I'm proud of Al. Al, do you know if Dr. Carmola's property goes on to the rail trail, St. Albans Town Forest?
No. As far as it hooked up with Peter Martin's land and somehow up to into the Fairfield area to pick up the railroad, I think, but
Very
not directly.
Just thinking that maybe to buy a piece that would put us there, we could have parking right at the road. and still be on the rail trail, but it doesn't touch.
No, Dr. Carmola is off French Hill, you mean?
Is what?
The property that's off French Hill, Dr. Carmola bought on French Hill?
Yeah, where the horse barn was.
Yeah, well, it still is. Yeah, it goes back far, but Larry Bruce was also part of that rail trail, but I don't think it got all the way to the,
Okay.
I can ask though, Larry.
It'd be nice if we could
Yeah.
access it there.
So that one's moving forward. We've gotten a lot of local support, which is hopefully going to help us be even more competitive at the state level. And the last thing I have on here, it's not on the agenda, but I want to thank a local business, J&L Service Center, for Dave Baker offered to just be a standby mechanic for the film crew that was here last week. They were here Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Instead, he ended up being an on-site mechanic on call for their 12-hour shoot. So I want to say thank you to Dave Baker for, I guess they needed his services twice because they were trying to keep a 1989 pickup truck running for the film that they filmed last week. And I also want to thank 14 Star and Alan for the music fest we had last weekend. I know we've gotten a lot of good comments. There was hundreds of people at the Bay Park.
Sure was.
Even when it rained, I mean, not everyone left or they came back. It was pretty fabulous, and I hear we're going to get a donation for our stone building of around $1,000.
Good, fantastic.
So
Maybe we
that
give
was
them a
good.
stone under the new tree.
There must have been a lot of beer consumed. That's all I can say.
You know, years ago, there was a movie filmed here in St. Albans called Loving and Laughing. And a lot of local people
Were in
wanted
it?
to be seen. It turned out it was a porno film.
Right.
Is that right, Tim?
And the
Why did you ask Tim?
And the mayor of the city at the time.
The mayor was there.
Ken K told that story.
Careful
Good
what we
Lord.
film.
They didn't actually tell us the name of that film, actually, now that you
They
say
all,
that.
they all went up to Montreal to see it. Right, right.
That's all I have for that.
See your neighbor in real life.
No, don't.
He never won an Oscar, right? Anyway,
Public comment.
okay, public comment. Bob, you're very quiet tonight.
Yeah.
Listening, good. Bob had enough excitement last night.
Okay.
Car?
All right, yeah.
At least
In other
Whenever it was, Saturday night.
other business, I asked Anna to look and see what was left in our general fund after everything was paid, and I believe probably everything is paid.
I think
I'm
we
not
jumped
quite-
ahead a little, Stan. Don't we have the
okay.
schedule to do first?
I don't mind him jumping ahead.
Okay.
Oh, why don't you do the schedule while Anna's looking up the numbers?
Okay. Because I,
Oh, you would put you on the spot,
so
Anna.
the schedule, oh, she's ready, I think.
So I believe Carrie and I both agree, it is an unaudited fund balance. Carryover from FY18. It was $771,739.34. $300,000 of it we used to reduce the tax rate, and $100,000 we used for a tandem truck. So that leaves $371,739.34. Unaudited. I'm sorry?
In what?
In the general fund.
That's our excess balance in the general fund.
Right.
Right.
Did it come from revenues or from the budget that we didn't spend?
Some from revenues, some from unexpended budget items that we didn't spend, but also there is some due to the last quarter payment that we paid the school was less, only because when we figured the tax rate early in the year, not everybody has filed their homestead.
Right.
Not everybody has gotten their state payment, which is the snafu we're running in now with the Vermont Department of Taxes. So when we did our tax rate this year, it's going to be lower that we pay the education part of it to the schools in May, so we're going to realize a surplus.
I never understand that, but I know it happens.
It does.
You
I
know.
think the payment that I paid in May of this year was something like $164,000 left that we get to retain.
Yeah, I'm astounded that we can retain this, but okay.
Yeah.
As long as we can carry it forward.
And I can show you the final cash flow sheets that we get every year that states that.
I just think the state, if there's something there, they would try to grab it. That's all I'm thinking.
Well, and the other question Stan had was about the stormwater, and we started significantly budgeting for stormwater in FY18. So not until we finish FY18 and have audited funds will we actually realize more money in our restricted fund for that. Before that, FY17, we were at that $30,000 limit for a while.
I'm against the utility, totally against it, but I'm only myself, so. We get all the funds left over until we need to charge people additional taxes.
I think, no, I don't think we have to, decisions regarding utilities and taxes, they're down the road yet. Any other business there, Stan? Okay, well, let me just comment, we have one thing that was in our file about the Brigham Road property. In the past, we have been negotiating with Edgewood Holdings, and they had an option which expired, and we did not renew that option, nor did they even attempt to renew it. And then because they invested some money in site analysis, we thought rather than go out and open the door for anybody to talk to us about it, we'd give them 30 days. If they wanted to reopen discussions, do it within 30 days. They haven't done that. So now I don't feel we have any obligation to give them any preference. So now it's open doors. We can discuss with anyone the balance of the Brigham Road property. And the balance will be that which we, after we hive off the Public Works Department, the rest will be available. And what we're going to do with that, we can sell it, who knows what.
And we're looking at keeping at least 10 to 12 acres, but that leaves quite a bit of land left.
After we hive it off, there may be 60 some odd acres available.
After you whittle off what's good and what isn't.
Right.
I mean, through.
I mean, we take what we need, and that's
Oh, sure.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I've got two things I want to bring up. Other business.
I just want to briefly go over schedule so we don't miss that one. So the next select board meeting is Monday, August 20th. We might have that special work session on the 13th if we can get everyone, but, and then the one after that was Labor Day, so I was proposing that we reschedule that to September 10. Is that an acceptable date for you guys? So that would be the second Monday of the month.
It is for me. Oh, I might have a school board meeting because they're the second Mondays.
It is the second one of the month. Anyway.
I will have a school board meeting.
So what about the 4th? The 4th?
That Tuesday?
Tuesday.
4th is fine.
That's fine with me.
Planning commission meeting?
No, we're the second and fourth.
All right.
4th is fine with me.
Okay, so we'll do it 9.
You?
Yeah.
4,
Yeah, so we can be
18.
here,
Okay.
Did you say now the 4th?
The 4th, so I think that's what's in agreement. September 4th, a Tuesday, same time.
Fine.
And the other thing on here is there's a household hazardous waste at the town garage. It wouldn't come on. This Saturday, August 11th, from 8 to 2. And we have links on our website and Facebook if you're not sure what you can bring in for the household hazardous part of it. And we still have a metal dumpster.
Chemicals.
They can paint too?
Chemicals.
Chemicals, right.
Chemicals only.
You know, hazardous.
Chemicals only.
Right. And the primary is next week. Tuesday.
Got all my schedule done. Yeah.
What about the advertisement on TV, pills, bags at the town clerk's office?
I had not received any bags yet, and I'm not sure who's to drop them off, but there will be a display. I'm not really that happy about doing that. I don't like the idea of medicine.
Ooh.
You won't get medicine here, just a bag, right?
No, they put their, yeah.
I mean, the PD, the lobby of the PD has it wide open. You don't have to.
I know, but there's this, I'm not sure who started it, but they're dropping bags and advertising at every town clerk's office in the state that people can drop off their medications. And I'm not really happy about that. I haven't gotten anything yet, but I know a lot of clerks have.
Have you talked to the police?
No, I just started coming through today on my email chain from all the other clerks.
Yeah.
To me, it's a crazy idea.
I know, I'm not comfortable with it.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable with it.
Bottom line, if you're forced to do it, I'd get some sort of a container like the police department has in their lobby.
Right.
Where it's locked. Once you drop it in, there's no way of getting it out.
Right, but I think they would have to come here and get that stuff
Police
because
would,
I
yeah.
don't want to transport that.
Right, right.
Be in jail.
Okay,
That's
that's
a
all.
very one. Two more
Oh,
things.
Okay.
Number one is that I was down at the car show this weekend in the Bay, and I was tickled pink to see the action down there. I mean, that place was, in the morning, was buzzing. And you had a softball tournament, you had people pitching horseshoes, you had the car show going on, you had vendors down there, and boy, I tell you, everybody was enjoying themselves. So, again, I guess Alan and the rest of you folks that put that on, boy, good job. I mean, it's just so nice to see so many people down there enjoying themselves. You know, and the best part of it is they had a 50-50 raffle and I won it.
Rigged. It was rigged.
I'm giving it back to the Stonehouse though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How much was the? Can you?
I have no idea. Alan
Oh,
hasn't told me.
That's interesting. Then that'll show us how many people.
Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing is that Al and I, as you know, meet with the EPI group, you know, the skating association, and you're gonna have to help me out here.
Sure. I'll start off with the structure of the EPI Association.
Go ahead.
The structure is the Hardack was purchased by the city of St. Albans. And they in turn asked to form a committee that would guide the long-range planning for Hardack. And so the committee is made up of members of the town. Bruce and I represent the town. They have the mayor and somebody else represent from the city.
Dominic and the mayor.
Dominic and mayor. And then they have community members who are with different associations, the hockey people, the skating association, and I forget what the other group is. Anyway.
Rise Vermont?
Pardon?
Rise
Vermont. They have all come together and heard a request from the skating association to determine what to. They figured out that we need more ice skating time. Collins Purley is booked out, maxed out. And so the question was, could we have another skating ring? And the idea was to put it at Hardack. Well, then people got talking with Collins Purley, and so there was a question of where we should put it, because at Collins Purley you would have some infrastructure support there versus you would have to start from new at the Hardack property. So there's now a group trying to figure out what's the best way, what's the most reasonable way, what are the long-range plans for a hockey ring. And so the Skating Association is seeking $5,000 from the town and $5,000 from the city to do this study. Bruce and I feel that we're part of a larger community which is using all our recreational facilities, and we need and should step up to the plate and match the city as an equal partner.
I'm not really fond. I know we got a pretty tight budget, and I'm not really fond of just delving out money to any organization that comes along. But I know that there's a lot of kids in both the city and the town that are ice skaters and use these rinks. And I would like to think that, you know, by donating this $5,000 to help figure out where they're going to put the next rink is going to keep kids involved, keep kids busy, keep them off the streets, get them out of the notebooks that they're at all the time. And we're a big hockey town.
Kevin.
I was on the skating board for 45 years. Skate shop at the skate team. I coached lacrosse us in Cardiac for 15 years.
Kevin, would you mind just using that mic?
Can you come up, Kevin?
For our big fans on Channel 15. We can hear we can hear you, but
I'm kind of astounded because the youth numbers have dropped. We don't have the same amount of kids in sports that we used to have. I don't even know what we have at the kindergarten level right now compared to the graduating class that's leaving VFA all around. So I think you have a lower number. I'm trying to figure out where the problem with ice time is, because when my kids were on the ice, we were going there at 5 o'clock in the morning to get ice time. And we seemed to accomplish it, and that was with the introduction of girls hockey and women's hockey. And we had double that, and we also had Milton involved on ice time. Now we have Highgate, who's trying to maintain their ice up there. I think this is more of a county situation. I think we'd be better off at looking at rinks in neighborhoods. You do neighborhood rinks. Say you have a rink at Hardack, and I know getting ice to freeze at this point in time, you might need an outdoor rink style, what Stowe used to have. In that case, if you did an outdoor rink, you can get federal money because it's an outdoor rink, and they would kind of throw money at you in that point in time.
So, Kevin, I know for a fact that Milton is now taking theirs to Ross's Point.
Which, well, because Ross's Point hasn't got anybody using the rink, so it's dirt cheap.
Yeah, dirt cheap.
So it's...
And everything that we heard from SATEC, from the board members, right down to even Corey Parent, who's active in hockey, is telling us that we're hearing that there is a demand for another ice skating rink, whether it's to enlarge the one at Collins Pearly or put one over at Hardack.
Well,
so
you have another group out here. You have these teams that come in after these kids get to a certain level, and they have these private club teams that these kids go off to. They're peeled off the local organization, and they're being developed someplace else.
Okay.
Now, are we dealing in a situation of haves and haves not, where we're going to support a group of kids whose parents are going to spend $1,500 a season on them just for ice time and paying a coach out of St. Albans, and all of a sudden we develop them for 5 years on our ice, and we develop ice, and then we rent them the ice? Is this the situation? Yeah. I think there's a whole scenario. When you go back to Hardack, there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put in those fields via, I know the lacrosse club has always done all the maintenance in the spring, and filling in the holes and building the fences and working on those, and that's all volunteer from the parents and the coaches. I believe the soccer club has also. I think it may behoove everybody to bring this under one big tent. Bring in the hockey association, bring in the lacrosse association, bring in the football, the Steelers, and bring everybody on one tent and say, hey, what do we need here, and what can we do with mutual funds that we're not overspending? Every one of these clubs probably uses the same kind of situation over and over again, and we're just repeating and repeating instead of let's see what we really do need and how can it work.
I like his ideas. I think we should invite him to the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Because I think you're opening up something that should be discussed, because the $10,000 is to figure out what's best for children.
I just don't understand where the skating association doesn't have the money.
I don't know, but I think your ideas...
There was a point in time, there was funds that we were going to build a rink before the, I believe it was the 08 crash, that we had monies, and I thought there was plenty of money in the skating association. I don't know what's going on there.
August 9th, City Hall, 6:30.
August 9th.
This Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, now, one thing, too bad Tim Hurlbutt's
I know.
not here.
I know.
Yeah, Tim left. I was hoping he would have stayed.
Yeah, because he was spearheading that rink up there at Hardack.
But he's spearheading
the organization.
The organization right now.
Kathy.
So hi, Kathy. I actually work part-time at Collins Road, and I don't know about the public skating, it gets pushed aside because of Sassy just books the ice, every week we're there, and the figure skating club. So there's not a lot of public skating because of that, and that is in demand.
So basically, they're doing a lot of tournaments
No, it's a full.
because they don't have the same amount of like the Pee-wees. I think are down to one team
Yeah, the numbers might be.
where they used to have four.
I can't speak to the numbers, but I know that the ice is.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so Al, you want to hold off on that request until,
Well, I would put it this way. I think for us to go back, it would be nice if we had the support of the select board. They don't have to approve the 5,000, but if we knew when we come back, they would back us up with spending that money.
well, yeah, I mean, okay, so
I
you're
would like to go
saying,
back with saying that we have the support of the select board to move forward and then listen to this other idea.
it is a really hot topic in the city and with a lot of people because they all show up for those meetings. I personally, myself, I would not have a problem saying that I would be willing to for the board to give the $5,000 so that they could investigate, but it would be under the same conditions as we did with, we did it with somebody else, Carrie, and they didn't spend all the money and they returned.
Swan Wind,
Yeah,
like a not to
with
exceed
the wind
number.
thing, yeah. If they didn't spend it, they returned the balance of the money to the
We just
town.
didn't pay anymore.
We just
Or we just didn't pay no
reimburse.
more.
Yeah.
I think I would be perfectly happy with,
So if you move that, I'll second it.
oh, okay, I'll make it as a motion.
And I'll second it.
What's the motion now?
The motion is to allocate the $5,000, up to $5,000 to the Skating Association. Help me out here.
To
Lost for words.
examine or to determine how best we should meet the skating needs of the children.
The children of the town and the city, or something like
Now,
that, Bill.
who's actually leading this thing?
Tim Holbert,
Like, as hard actor?
yes.
So not Sassa.
Well, Sassa's involved with it, with Tim, as a group.
He's a member of this epicenter committee.
The Epicenter Committee, Bill. I
So then maybe you should amend the motion to epicenter.
That's fine.
amended to Epicenter then. And
When you're talking at each other, I can't hear you. The motion should read that the money's going to be approved to go to the epicenter committee. EPI.
not to exceed $5,000. So, I made the motion.
Good.
You second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
I think the chair does that.
All those in favor?
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bill.
When the
I'm
chair
sorry.
doesn't do it, the vice chair.
Before you have your vote, do you want to put something in your motion that says up to 5,000 as a match to what the city puts in? So if the city doesn't put anything in, you still want the town to put $5,000?
You know, in a case like this, I don't really care what the city puts in. I feel good about what the town's doing, to tell you the truth, Bill.
Bob.
Or Bob. Fred.
I'll answer to them all.
We're gonna put a Bill Johnson statue up there. Okay.
That's fine.
So this is basically for a study? 10 grand?
That's the way it was presented to us a month ago, 2 months ago.
We've got a motion to the board
Would we
right
like to
now.
have 10 grand back in the day?
We got a motion to the board. That's all. Bill, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, it's all right. Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
1, 2, 4 to 1. You're opposed to it?
No, they are. I
You're
voted-
opposed?
Yes.
Okay.
I voted with you.
3 to 2.
3 to 2, which way?
So there was
Or in favor
3
of it.
yeses.
3 yeses and 2 noes.
Yes, yes, and yes.
Okay.
No
I
and
got
no.
You know, they had money to make that tax-free. And they blew it, and I'm not giving them another dime. We shouldn't be paying nothing up there.
My question is, where do you want that money coming from?
Your wallet.
No.
Change that number to
Fred's.
5,000 less.
Fred's wallet. I don't know.
Well, you have this surplus fund at the end of this year. We could designate
No,
part of that.
That was from last year, not
But
this.
it rolls over into
It
the
does
fund
roll
balance
over.
of our 2000
We could see,
resources.
I guess I'll have to look and see what we have left for consulting.
So
When we just
basically, we're
start.
only going to spend what they
Yep.
can provide us with
Okay.
receipts.
Yep.
Say a cautionary thing here. Are you on the committee? Are you meeting with them now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to give you a past history of, Bill, I think you were on the select board with me. We use impact fees to put a playground and ball fields at Septic, and we ran into the problem with, we had no control over it. Once it's built on school property, the school can do whatever they want with it, even if our intent was to open the skating up
Yeah.
for other people. So take that in mind. If you put it at Collins Curly, the school's gonna have first dibs on
Well,
everything.
we know that when the school went, BFA went public, everything was
You
shut
know
to
what,
hell.
Bob? It's $5,000 for a study.
Well, I'm talking long-term. If the
Long-term.
study proves to put it somewhere.
Yeah.
Take into consideration if it goes at Septic or at Collins Curly, you'll have no control.
We don't have any control over it now.
So if you don't have control, you don't vote it.
But Bob, I heard,
Okay.
that came up in the meeting. I think
Okay.
the skating
Yeah, go ahead.
association's aware of that liability, and that's part of some of the people's worries.
So we're gonna have to
Everything
warn that
except this.
8:13 meeting, because you're gonna have 3 selectmen there.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks like one member is ready to move to adjourn.
Yeah.
You're going to try to come to this?
You gonna make a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
So, 5-4, and none against.
Take this.
Thank you.
I want this.